Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here at the Spartan Rocketry Club, and it is time to start finishing, well, painting, I guess, really, my Quest Terrier-Orion build here. So, in the intervening time since the last video, I put on the sanding sealer and then sanded it off, and then I primed with white paint, and I sanded that off, at least from the fins, a little bit around the tubes, although honestly not a whole lot on the tubes. I didn't bother. I basically just hit the tubes with the glossy white finish paint. The fins, as you can see here, this is still basically, I mean, there's some glossy white paint on it, but not very much. Most of it is still either the primer or some of it I've even sanded down pretty far beyond that. So that stuff's pretty idiot proof. You basically just paint the whole thing. Now it's time for the part that admittedly I am not the best at. This is the part where you need to protect the parts that are the right color already, and then, yeah, mask off the parts that are not. So we need to make reference to what actually is, what colors we're supposed to go with. So I need an orange and I need a yellow, I believe, are the two colors that I'm going to need for the fins. And I can make reference, back to the box art here. Now, it's not complete. I mean, I can only see a couple of the fins, but I'm pretty sure that they are 3 orange and 1 yellow. The instructions say something to that effect. There are similar rockets in this vein, like the bottom part down here looks a whole lot like a couple different Estes kits. It looks like a Nike Smoke, I think. And that's not surprising because remember, this is a scale-ish model, and this is either a first stage or an early stage of a bunch of different sounding rockets that NASA's used over the years. Anyway, those I have. Some of them are, they have orange and yellow and red, but it looks like we're just going to go with yellow, 1 yellow and 3 orange for this. It's also worth pointing out, too, that the nose cone up here and the first bit of the rocket are supposed to be gold, as is this transition part here. Now, in a bit of, I'm not entirely sure what to describe it, maybe bad luck or just boneheadedness, I did paint those already, and I used what I thought was gold paint, but it turns out it was just a really old can of silver, and the plastic on the can had gone from a silvery color to more of a golden color. So apparently I'm painting those transition parts in the nose cone. They're going to be silver instead of gold, but whatever, it doesn't truly matter. So most of the purpose of this video then is going to be to properly mask things off. And masking tape, of course, comes in a variety. Here's some masking tape. I don't use this for masking. It doesn't make good lines, and depending on the quality of it, I've had spray paint actually bleed right through the paint. So this has its purposes, but not for painting. This stuff I use, although I'm not going to be using it for today's painting, I don't think, unless I need like small detail work. This stuff, this is painter's tape, right, from our good friends at 3M apparently, and it comes in a variety of different strengths. This is sharp lines. I like this stuff, but it's not what I'm going to use today. This and this have a lot in common. This is easy to tear. It just masks better than the other stuff does. But I'm not going to be using this either. What I need is masking tape option number 3 here, which is this stuff. This is ultra sharp lines, and this stuff is more of a, it's like plasticky. It feels, it's not duct tape, but it's kind of along that same vein. I can't tear it. I mean, you probably could, but I end up using scissors, or you could use a hobby knife to cut it. So this is what I'm going to use. It's ultra sharp. I mean, they generally gives you really nice sharp lines. It's a little bit harder to use, but it is quality stuff, so that's what we're going to go with. So I need to do a couple things. Before I worry about the bottom part, I'm going to mask off up here where the transition from the silver, well, it's supposed to be gold, but where that part's going to be. the instructions actually do say I need to leave 3 inches of space here, and you could certainly measure that. I guess it wouldn't hurt. So we can at least get a good ballpark estimate of where that ought to be. So here's a ruler, and 3 inches is going to go to about here. Now, normally, you just like grab yourself a piece of tape or a pencil and mark that up, but of course this is already painted. I don't want to ruin it. So I'm going to use my scissors here as just kind of a reference. So I want to put the tape basically where the blade ends. Now this is 3 inches, right? It's a ballpark. The only thing that's really going to make much of a difference is the decal set here could be potentially harder to use, but I don't think it's really going to matter because each one of these lines, they look like they're separate. So if I have to make it a little bit smaller, so be it. It's just a matter of getting the scale right. And if that's not quite right, oh well. So anyway, yeah, now I actually need the scissors. So let's swap it out for something else just to kind of keep the same general mark. So I'm going to cut off a bit of my tape. Again, this stuff it doesn't work too well to tear. It's too strong. So scissors are the order of the day. I'm going to mask this off, and I'm just going to spin this around. Hopefully I put it pretty flat, and oh, that's nice. Yeah, it actually is pretty good. So I cut way more than I actually need, which is fine. So I'm just going to make sure it wraps around. So this should be a nice straight line. Fingers crossed, one would hope. All right. So this is going to be exposed. I'm going to paint it silver. This part is going to end up getting covered with some kind of paper. Usually I have like spare computer paper that I printed and don't need anymore, so that's a good way to cover it up. I don't tend to use newsprint because newsprint is thin and I've had it bleed through or the paint react with the ink in the newspaper, and they're better choices. So use some old computer paper. That's my recommendation. All right, next I'm going to cut a little bit less tape this time, but I'm still going to go around the body tube. This time I'm going to go right in front of the fins. This actually tends to be a little bit easier because that first bit there I was kind of eyeballing to try to get it perpendicular. This, at least the fins, you can use as a reference. So I'm just going to spin it around, and I want it to be right in front of the fins, which I don't quite have. I have to carefully peel this back and try it again. Yeah, there we go. It is also possible that I didn't have the fins precisely lined up when I glued them, and if that's the case, then I'm never going to get exactly a line that's going to be perfectly straight. But that doesn't truly matter all that much because I'm going to put another piece of tape in between here, and that'll take care of business. Alright, so I do need, as mentioned, to put some more tape in. This time, I mean, this is way too wide, obviously. It's wider than the gap that I am trying to cover. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to line it up with one side, put it down. I'm not going to try to attach it fully yet. What I'm going to do, oh, you know what? Actually, before we do that, because this has been a mistake. Let's actually put a piece of tape at the back end of this too, because otherwise it's going to be pretty hard to fully mask all the way around. Okay, this piece is probably not big enough, so I'm going to have to put a little bit of extra in. That's fine. It's not really a big deal. Might actually be easier because getting the tape in under the fins is not the easiest thing in the world. That's not bad. Alright. This is actually a bit of a problem. There's some space in there. But gonna be tricky because I have to kind of like weave it through in order to cover things properly. Yeah, that's better. And again, there. All right, good enough. I'm going to seal that, and I'm going to fold this. Do I want to fold this stuff over? Probably should. Yeah, let's fold this stuff over, and then just kind of it's into the body tube a little bit, but not much. Good enough. All right, now it's time to mask off the bits in between here. So I only need like 1.5 inches of tape. Don't need to overkill this. As I was saying, now this is going to go right up. This is the part, more than anything else, that I need to do quite well. Because whatever I don't mask off here, well, that's going to get painted, and it's going to be orange or yellow or whatever, and it should be white. Now, this is slightly the tricky part, so I'm going to kind of like fold this back in on itself. So I'm going to make a bulge of the tape. So remember, my goal is to cover right up to the fin, like so. And then this can just seal in on itself. That should be fine. Now I do want to make sure it is sealed off because I don't want to have like a gap in here where the paint can go in and get all the way down to the white. But that should not be a problem. Alright, repeat the process. I won't do that right now. We'll just quickly look at the other part here. This should be easier, honestly, than this because the swept back fins here were a bit of the problem. These are not swept back, so I should be fine. Just masking around the tube in the front, and then masking around the tube in the back, and then covering up in between. I'm going to start at the back here. I'm going to try to start in the back here. There we go. And just spin around. Okay. Remember, this doesn't really need to be perfect here because this is the bottom. There's going to be extra stuff on top. I'm just going to kind of crimp this down a little bit. Normally when I paint these, I put a dowel up the motor mount to use as, so I don't have to stick my hand in it, but I will be able to hold this like so when I'm painting, so that should not be a particularly big concern, and I'll just leave it like this to dry. Alright, again, I need to go around, but this time there's potential for the launch lug being in the way, but it looks like this is just, it'll be wide enough, it should be plenty wide enough to get the tape around without any issue. The launch lug does tend to make it a little bit difficult to, oops, there we go. Now the little lock that's partially stuck, that's annoying. The launch lug does make it potentially difficult to get a good, get the tape down flat sometimes. That shouldn't be a problem here. I did not get this quite where it needs to be. It needs to be farther up. Yeah, that's not quite good enough either. Just do be careful with resetting the tape. The tape, I mean, this stuff is, this particular kind, this ultraline stuff, the tape is fairly sticky, and I have had it peel off the underlying paint on occasion, so be careful with that. You certainly don't want to leave this on for like weeks either, so that it would bond. That would be unfortunate. Alright, this time, it's probably more tape than I need again, but whatever. This might actually be a little bit more difficult because the amount of space in here is less, so the bulge that I'm going to fold it over is going to be less as well, which could make this potentially difficult, but that seemed alright. Okay. I'm not going to bother repeating this over and over again. You don't need to watch me do the exact same thing a bunch of times. But do make sure that you're, before you paint, and right now is a good time as well, just to press down on those seals, the place where you absolutely don't want the paint bleeding through. Smooth it out, make sure that it is covered. Down here, up here, not as big of a deal. If this were exposed right here, I would want to press it down, but I'm going to put another piece of tape over it, so it shouldn't matter. Alright, so the only other thing that I need to say about this is, because they're going to be, I'm going to have to paint this in 2 separate swaths, because one of them's a different color. I'm probably going to paint the, I guess I don't know, I'll paint the darker one first maybe, and then mask it off. I don't think it truly matters. Ideally you usually go from light to darker, but I don't think that'll be as much of a deal here. I probably will end up doing the yellow first. The only thing that I'll say about that is the yellow paint, I have yet to find a brand of yellow paint that you can really get on in one application. It usually takes 2 or 3 coats to get it to the color yellow that's on the paint can itself. In this case, just looking at the picture, this is a pretty light yellow, at least in this picture, so maybe I'll get it in 1, but probably not. It's usually like 2 coats. Yeah, so that'll be fine. And I'm not going to mask off that yellow fin either. I'm not going to use paint. I will probably just get myself a small piece of paper and say, like, if this was the fin, I would tape it on here and just like shield it that way. I don't want or need to use paint in order to pull that off, or tape to pull that off. So that's where I'm going from here. I've got some more masking to do, and then it's off to the paint shop. Silver, yellow, and orange. When we're done, then it'll be time for decals. So I will see you then. Thanks for watching.